Linda from the Wilton Garden Club, and I'm doing a little session here on how to force your spring bulbs. We had a new bulb item in our when we sold this fall, and they were forcing them. So what you're going to get at the end in April is something along the lines of this. I got this at Trader Joe's the other day. These are the tete-tetes, and these are the narcissus. So the hyacinth, I mean, and what we're going to do is show how to force these so you'll have an indoor or outdoor blooms for April. So this is sort of what you're going to get. I'm going to start with forcing is not really forcing. It's almost like tricking the bulbs. So we're going to trick the bulbs. We're going to put them to sleep for a little bit in a cold, dark area for 10 to 12 weeks. And then we're going to bring them in to a warmer house, and they're going to think it's spring, and they're going to start blooming. First, I'm going to go over different kinds of containers that you could use and how to prep your container. So we have a variety of containers here. You need to decide if you can put them inside or outside after they bloom. You can do a glass container such as this. You could do something a little more substantial. This is what I'm going to use. I put a lot of bulbs in here. You can do something fun like a galvanized watering can, and then this would be great on a fireplace or on your front steps. You could use a galvanized tin like this, or you could do something fun for your front steps, like a big container like this, plant them in there, and that would really look great in April. So you want to think about your pot. Your pot needs to be 3 to 4 inches deep, so the roots have a chance to grow. So it cannot be too shallow of a pot. Now to prep it, what you're going to do first is take your potting soil. I usually use a little bucket like this, and you want to use moist soil, not wet soil. Just give it a little water so the soil just has some dampness to it. Not real wet. You really want to be careful not to use too much moisture because the bulbs can rot. So just a little bit of water into the pot, and then the next step is you want to create a drainage system. So what I usually do is I'll use either rocks or mulch or sand. You can do a combination of that, rocks, mulch, sand, just something to let the soil drain a little bit better. So I'm going to be using this pot. So I'm putting these rocks in here, a handful or so. So the water will start to drain a little bit better. You really want to not overwater these when you do water them, because you do want to, there are bulbs in there, they don't want to rot. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take your soil, put it in here, and get your bulbs. Now we have the tete-tetes and the grape hyacinths. When you're planting them, you really want to create a very full, nice display. So you're not going to, really try to get them in there, and you really want the bulbs touching. So it's nice and full when it comes out. This, I don't think this is full enough, but it's a nice example, but I like it so when it blooms, you really have a lot of blossoms. So you're going to take, and you might want to think about it. Do you want all your daffodils in the back? Do you want your hyacinth in the front? Do you want them mixed up? Because they are going to be a different height. So you just sort of maybe want to, or just throw them in there and see what happens, which is what I usually do. So you're going to take your bulbs, and you want them so just a tiny, tiny bit of the neck is showing. I'll tilt this. And I really am going to get a lot in there. So they actually are, the bulbs are actually touching one another, because then when they bloom, they're going to be nice and full. So you just really kind of get them in there, stick them down. So just the little bit of the neck is showing. So you will get your bulbs in there. And again, any kind of combination that you want. I can see it's tilted, so I really should have more soil in here, and I'll replant it so there's more soil. But so just really get them in there so they're touching and they're tight, because you really want it to have a nice You want a lot of blossoms. So then get your blossoms in there. Give it a little bit of water. Be very careful not to overwater, because again, I keep saying this, I have done this with other bulbs and they rot. So you have to make sure you just give a little bit of water so there's a little bit of moisture to the top. Now, the next step is, where are we going to place this so it can winter? And you're going to chill it. It's called chilling the bulbs, because we want it to think it's winter. And so we're going to place them in a cool, not freezing, dark area. That could be your basement, dark part of your basement. It could be on the back of your garage that doesn't freeze, a shed that doesn't freeze. I usually put them in the back of my basement because I remember them there. If you put them in a shed or a garage, you might want to, until they really start to really come up, you might want to put a little wire over them, because if you have critters, they might go digging around. So I usually like to put them in my basement, in the back of my basement. It needs to be, what was it? It was 35 to 40 degrees and dark, because you're forcing them. They think it's winter. I usually put them down there every 2 weeks. If you can remember, put it on your calendar, go down there. If it's dry to the touch, just put a little water on it, and then just leave them alone. What's going to happen is they're going to start to sprout. And when they get to be about 2 to 4 inches tall, and that's going to take 10, 12, maybe 13 weeks, you bring them inside. The sprouts are going to be really white because they haven't seen any sun yet, so they will green up. You bring them inside, and then use a 2-step process for bringing them inside. You want to gradually introduce them to what they would think is a spring climate. So the first step I usually do is I take them, find a room, if you have one that's about 65 degrees and not direct sun. What I do is, we don't really heat our playroom because I don't want to spend money to heat a room for them to play Xbox in. So it's about 65 degrees up there. I'll put them up there for just 1 week, just to sort of, it's a step between the cold and the warmth of your house. So just 1 week. And then after that, find a place in your house where you want them, where you want to enjoy them. It should be not direct sun, but a windowsill, on your table, if you get some light. And in about 2 weeks, it's going to be pretty full. They grow very, very quickly when you bring them inside. It's kind of fun to watch, because they really go crazy once you bring them inside. And then after about 2 weeks, you're going to have a nice display. Now you also can, like if you did something like this, they start blooming, put it on your front steps. That would look great. Or keep them inside. So they'll bloom for probably 2 to 3 weeks. And then after they're done blooming, it's sort of up to you. I usually just take the bulbs and throw them in my compost heap. You can try to see if you can get them to rebloom. What you would do is just take them out, throw them in a paper bag or a mesh bag, put them in a dark, cool place. Now you got to remember you did this. And then next fall, put them in your garden like you would with any other daffodil bulbs. And they say, I've read that sometimes it works, sometimes it takes 1 or 2 years. So you could try that. I've never done it. I usually just put them in my compost and get a new batch the next year. And that's pretty much it. So just to kind of recap the steps, some moist soil, put them in so the neck is just touching, just above the soil line, put a lot in there. Then you put it into a cool, dark area for 10 to 12 weeks, bring it in, 1 step, a room at about 65 degrees for 1 week, and then put them wherever you want them and enjoy them. So I think that's about it. Anything that I forgot or you want to add? And you can have fun with it. I mean, I love this because it sort of is a outdoorsy look, or you can do something a little bit more formal, and you could get all these great looking beads or all these stones at Michael's, and you can do layers and put a ribbon around it. I love this. I think would be really great on the steps of your house in the spring. And this is a little bit more formal. So you can really, have fun with it. You can separate them. So that's about it. Any questions or thoughts or?
Linda, I have a question. I have